Well, welcome to the Beyond Cinema Studio, David, Clémence. Congratulations, David. I mean, this is, despite all the work on TV, stage, etc., this is really your first, your directorial debut as a feature. Is that, talking about all those different things, all those different disciplines, is that something driven by you, that you always had all these different kind of creative visions that you wanted to explore, or are you kind of just a victim of circumstance given the nature of the world these days?
It's mostly circumstance. Film was the thing that when I was a kid I was romantic about and watched endless amounts, and then film in Britain in the 90s was like a graveyard. There was nothing really happening unless you were two or three people, Mike Leigh and Peter Greenaway basically, and Ken Loach. And so I sort of drifted into theatre and found I loved it, and then drifted into other things, then came back, and this, so it's a long, rather lovely journey to come back to what I really wanted to do.
Yeah, and but writing as well is like classically an isolated profession versus engaging with a family of people in theatre or collaborating with a bunch of different people on a film. Do you have a kind of a normal state of being, like a preferred state of being?
No, that's where life is a bit planned, in that I think I have two different needs. One is to be gregarious and with people, and then probably like everyone, but I have it quite strongly as well. I like moments of just being alone and allowing things to come into my head a bit and see what's there. So that bit I think I do conscious. If I write for too long alone, I get very lonely and bored, and similarly the other way around.
Clémence, what was the first time you guys met, and what was the conversation? Where were you?
Did we Skype before we met?
No, I don't think we did.
No?
No, I think we did afterwards.
Okay. I had that memory. We met in London and read a scene, but I think
we did Skype. We did Skype.
I think we talked on Skype
I
before.
have just remembered now, we Skyped. But I remember
no,
the meeting.
I wore the same shirt to the meeting that I wore at the Skype, because I just kind of thought,
And I, of course,
I
noticed
and
that.
And of course, you never noticed it. So it was on Skype, and then in London we read 3 scenes. Okay.
The thing I remember really clearly is Clémence coming in London, and I think Clémence was coming in really because in your head she was thinking about accent and thinking, I've got to show I can be a British character. I was just literally thinking, I had a very specific feeling for a kind of internal, very intense quality I wanted, and it was literally within about 20 seconds I was like, I remember the whole room went very quiet. There were about 3 of us in there, and no one was looking at each other, but I just knew they were all going, oh, that's it. It was nice.
That's cool. It's good to know that feeling. And in terms of the way the film's being presented, there's references to Polanski, there's references to Haneke. Are they things that just because they're huge influences of yours, or is that what the programmers saw and brought to the table in terms of their descriptions of the film?
They are influences. I mean, we hopefully say that quite humbly, because I think they are somewhat masters of the genre that I'm interested in. But that kind of pure cinematic suspense that kind of works and is interested in how the camera and the thing that is being filmed and how actors and space work, and there's a purism, and yet actually it's thrillingly visceral. It genuinely interests me.
Talking about the space, Clémence, it's a film that is fairly contained, right, within a couple of locations, essentially. Having that imposed upon you, does that add to the drama in terms of just even the making of the film?
Oh, it's amazing to shoot in one. We shot in that house for about a month.
Yeah.
So it becomes yours. And actually, to be honest, I'd really like that apartment if anyone could give it back to me. But it does it. I'm always happier staying in one location and making it mine than sort of moving around, because it felt very much like workshopping a play almost, because you didn't have to think about outside elements. You could just sort of focus on acting and on what was happening between the four characters and the 5th character that the house had become somehow.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, it was great.
Was there talk that this would be for the stage as well at any point?
Never, no, and it would never work on the stage. I hope it doesn't come over as a theatrical piece in that sense. I think it's very much a film piece. But as Clémence says, the house is so key in the way in which they view the house and they look at each other through the window. You know, all of that relationships are key. But we did literally spend. I mean, there was one week where we did the big scenes in the upstairs, but I think we just didn't move from there, and the dressing rooms were just upstairs, so everything was the whole. I mean, I think the crew started to go a little stir crazy towards the end because it's really tight space-wise.
Yeah.
But it was fantastically intense.
So did you shoot in Berlin as well as London?
No, we shot in London, and then we shot a little bit at the end. The movie, without giving too much away, has a kind of a claustrophobia followed by a release, I would say, and I wanted the release to feel a little different to everything else, and so we shot that in France.
In France?
Yeah.
Where in France?
In northern France, kind of near Lille.
And was that part of the financing arrangement as well? Like, was that like the French?
You know what? It wasn't. The money was entirely British, BBC Film and BFI. But it was just something, maybe unnecessarily. Maybe it was a first-time idea. But I just wanted to. I had an instinct in my head. I wanted to literally go somewhere else. I mean, the simple things we needed, like cars going on the other side of roads, and there were practical. There was practical elements as well. Yeah. But there was also something about the landscape of the end that I just wanted a little bit different.
Yeah, it being kind of a significant project for you, that kind of first feature, did you take a souvenir off the set?
I just had my clapperboard, which was the thing I always wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And Clémence, do you collect souvenirs from the productions you're involved in?
I always try to keep one piece of costume.
That way you can wear it in Skype conversations with directors.
There you go, and then I can
notice.
just sort of, it can be a sort of endless repetition of the same movie over and over.
Actually, I do have your desk.
Do you?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
which is a slightly morbid and eerie thing to have.
I just really wanted to get the couch, but I think it was I think they
The
wouldn't
couch
let
in the apartment.
Yeah, I think they wouldn't let anyone have it.
Just a quick kind of question about working with Eddie Redmayne as well, just given that he's been so prominent over the course of the last couple of years and on stage and on screen.
Yeah.
And was here last night. What was that experience like as well?
Working with Eddie?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's always incredibly pleasant because he's such a sort of he's a delight of a man, really, and so generous. But I remember very clearly because we were shooting the adaptation of a book called Birdsong, which is set partly before the First World War, and it's a whole love story. And then the war happens, and then there's a sort of post-war moment. And I remember shooting. I arrived really late in the shoot. They'd shot all the war, and then we sort of moved on to the romance. And on the very last day, we shot a scene where he was coming back from being a soldier, and I hadn't seen that side of him at all because they shot all of that before, and he literally brought the war in the room. It was one of the most amazing things to witness because he brought that entire world that I hadn't witnessed at all, and it was heartbreaking.
Very cool. And then David, Tom Hiddleston has a couple of films here, and I know you worked with him as well. What is it about him that's making him kind of also one of the kind of people of the moment?
Well, specifically with the John le Carré that I've adapted for BBC and AMC, what the character requires, I think it sums up what Tom is really, which is it requires a strange normality that masks an utter mystery. And I think that's what he has. There's this sort of blankness. Do you know what I mean by that? Which is fascinating, and you don't quite know what's going on. And then what happens is just it unravels and unravels and unravels, and it's about, well, where does it stop? And I said, I think that's probably what a certain type of fantastic acting is all about, isn't it? It's that it's not all out there. It's not there, and then suddenly it is there, and then it's there a little bit more, and that's what he does wonderfully in The Night Manager.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on the success across multimedia, and looking forward to hearing how it goes tonight with the first audiences. Congratulations and thanks again for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.